Pretty good.
I'm new on this board. I never met you before. Can you introduce yourself for me,
my name's Tom Scanlon Jr. I'm the managing partner at Scanlon Associates. We've done the audit here for the past, or I've been the partner here for the last 7 audits.
Okay, thank you.
And you should kind of walk through exactly what we do, what the purpose of an audit is. You'll see the big, thick one, the financial one. So the main objective of our audit is to opine on your financial statements. We go through and assess risk on your financial statements. Basically, your 2 main assets is your accounts receivable and your cash. So we do a lot of testing in that area. When your collector's office and your treasurers, we'll look at the bank statements, make sure they're being balanced properly. There's no weird reconciling items, proper cutoff, the receipts are in the proper period. We'll go through and test compliance with the procurement laws, look at your fund balance, test revenue, do a lot of analytical, so compare a lot the budget versus actual. So we're looking to make sure your revenues are in your right buckets. If it's a grant, sitting in the grants, not sitting as part of your free cash. And we gave you a clean opinion, which is good. It's good in the bond market when you go out there into the grant awarding agencies. So we had no difficulty in performing the audits. Gave no significant audit adjustments, which is always good. It's always what your free cash is your free cash is. It's always good to have that confidence. You do have controls in place. When your department incurs a bill, it probably goes through the proper controls you have in place. It's signed. There's no checks leaving your bank account that you're not approving. So we do a lot of testing in that area on it. And then, just as a general note, your financial policies that you have in place are very sound. When you look at your financial statements, you'll see your unassigned fund balance. It's roughly about $5.2 million. That's really your stabilization funds and your free cash. So those 2 are your 2 chief reserves. They're roughly about 22% of your budget, which is general thumb is 10% is good. 10 to 15 is excellent. Anything above 15, kind of have sound practices, so you can see like 27%. So keep on doing what you're doing, and have those financial policies in place. And that's any other thing I just want to point out is OPEB. You did establish a OPEB trust, which OPEB is other post-employment benefits like pensions. Basically, you promised your employees you're going to pay a portion of their health insurance. And you did establish a trust, which you did in 2020. You contributed $350,000 to it. So now you have about $650,000 in there. And again, OPEB is always long-term thinking. When you do have retirees at some point, you're going to be able to dip into there to pay for their health insurance. Hopefully sometime between now and then, health insurance will come down in price. But the most important thing is you've established a trust, and you're contributing to it. And I would encourage you to keep up with that. So that's kind of it on your financial statements side. And then the other report you have is a manager report. It's kind of a byproduct of the audit. As we go through, we see things, we're testing controls. We see we can be more efficient and more operational efficient in certain areas. A couple things you don't want to see in your management report. You don't want to see the terms of material weakness or significant deficiencies. If you have those 2 things, it's bad. You don't have that, you have other matters, so it's really need to be more efficient. You're always going to find something in an audit, and that's kind of where we are in this management letter. So as we go through, kind of a generic comment to all our cities and towns, because so our main focus at our business is we audit governments. That's what we're specialty in. So we do about 65 audits a year, and this comment is every single one of ours. So it's very important. There's a lot of federal funding coming through with COVID. There's a lot of state funding. And right now, you're not subject to a thing called the Single Audit Act, which is we've spent over $750,000 in federal funds. You have to have another specific kind of audit. I would imagine you're going to go over the threshold with these ARPA funds and the ANF funds. all sorts of other monies out there, ambulance monies that are coming through Health and Human Services. So right now you have controls in place when a grant comes into your town. Chris is classifying whether federal, state, and there's different compliance requirements.
Right.
Each one has. The compliance requirements with all these COVID monies would be here all night if I started listing them all off. So there's a lot of compliance requirements. And now's the time to have your controls should be working. Now's the time when you want to rely upon, but there is a lot of money flowing through that you really need to identify. Other controls you have in place is like timely reconciliations. I know it's tough to get away from those under COVID. It's pretty easy to relax on them. Can't stress enough to stay with them, stay with your controls. And the other aspect I want to point out is there's been a lot of unemployment fraud out there. And it's caused a lot of unnecessary work and burden on your personnel here, the financial personnel. So try to keep up with that best you can. It's amazing how people will steal your identity, and the fraud will affect here and all the time you got to put in place. Probably Steve can probably attest to that as it comes down through, or Chris. So I would encourage to keep up on that, and also to monitor your revenues, your collection rates, just make sure you're not falling off on any of those, which you do have in place, but I just want to take the moment just to stress all those in this COVID environment. And then a couple other, just want to point out is the Vets Blind and Surviving Spouse monies from the state. For some reason, the state hasn't been reimbursing them to several communities. You are one of the lucky ones that didn't receive reimbursement for the last 2 years, for a total of about $81,000. Chris has followed up, and we still haven't heard anything, but that's one thing I know we're going to harp on that, trying to follow up and getting the monies in. It's roughly about $40,000 a year. For some reason, certain communities just fell through the loopholes or something, but Chris is on that, looking at it. And then the other thing I just want to point out is the reconciliation between your school department and your town. There has been issues in the past. I think it's made tremendous improvement during fiscal year 20, and I hope it stays that way for 21. So as of 20, there's no variances that exist between Chris's records and the school department's records. So I think that is settled down pretty much, which is good. That's your largest department. But that's something that we are going to monitor in our audits. And then I don't know if you had any specific questions, or anyone had any questions?
Is there any areas of improvement that we need?
No. I mean, you're efficient. Your controls are good. Like your main controls are very solid. Obviously your cash reconciliations and your accounts receivable and your revenue classification. Those are your key controls. They're working. Outside of that, I would say nothing that I would point out.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. You should have confidence that your controls are working. I know. Usually I try to put myself in the FinCom seat or board of selectmen seat if I was what I would want to hear when I'm doing the audit and what we do. But our focus is a lot in the treasury and collector side.
I think we're fortunate as a town to have good people in the right places right now to take care of things, and I think your report represents that, the people we have.
Yeah.
Is there anything we got to keep an eye on with the COVID money coming in?
Just making sure there's a lot of compliance requirements.
Right, yeah.
And I know there's been, seems like things change constantly. Something, for instance, I learned something this morning and I got a phone call on the way home when I was over here. It totally changed. That's completely different, the way it was interpreted. So one of the things I would, the ARPA monies, is 4 categories you can spend it in. One of them is revenue loss. I would encourage not to go that route of revenue loss. One, it's a very complicated formula. And 2, I think you're arbitrarily creating a budget deficit down the road, because that revenue loss will make its way to the general fund, and again, it's one time. And if you're going to use those revenues to fund your budget, you're really creating a budget deficit there that I think is unneeded. So really, I don't think there's a group of looking at how you're going to spend the ARPA funds, but I would concentrate in the world of infrastructure if it could. And if premium pay, I'd probably stay away from that one also. But revenue loss, I would really think twice about if you're going down that route. Because again, I think you're just creating a budget deficit down the road, because it's going to end up it's going to end up as part of free cash at the end of the day. And if you use it to fund your budget, which if some communities are doing, which is trying to encourage you not to, you're really creating a budget deficit. So.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it. I'll save the hard questions for
No
Chris.
PowerPoint?
No. This post-COVID era, I'm doing really relaxed. Got the Hawaiian shirt on too, so. Hey, if any questions throughout the year, don't hesitate to call our office if you got any problems that pop up or you have some concerns.
I'll relay that to the chairman when she gets back.
Thank you. Greatly
Thanks.
appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Yeah, have a good one. Hopefully it's not.
I know it's a little bit early. Pioneer Valley PVPC here.
Yes.
You want to?
Before you do that, because I don't know, maybe somebody may show up waiting. for
Okay, 5 more minutes.
If you want, I can go through some of the correspondence and do frame rentals.
Absolutely.
I'm usually the filler for in between appointments.
Okay.
Okay. We have a few pieces of correspondence I want to go over the board with. First is a letter from the Police Chief Search Committee. Does the board wish me to read the letter into the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
This is dated July 14th, 2021. To the Granby Select Board, 10B West State Street, Granby, Mass. 01033. Dear board members, the Police Chief Search Committee is pleased to forward 2 names as finalists for the position of Chief of Police for the town of Granby. The committee met and reviewed the 8 applications that had been received in response to the advertisement the town had placed. After reviewing all the applicants' response packages, the committee scheduled 6 interviews with the prospective candidates. One applicant was found not to have the necessary qualifications to meet the requirements of the position, and one applicant had subsequently received an employment offer from another municipality. The committee ended up interviewing 5 candidates, as the 6th candidate declined to be interviewed after hearing that a select board member had been in the police station stating that the town would be hiring from within the department and not to worry as they were being covered. After conducting all the interviews and discussing the merits of each candidate, the committee voted to forward 2 names as finalists for the position of Chief of Police for the town of Granby. The 2 proposed finalists are Kevin C. O'Grady, 62 Amherst Street, Granby, Mass. 01033. Nicholas P. Maroney, 955 Riceville Road, Athol, Mass. 01331. Sincerely, Police Chief Search Committee, Glenn Sexton Chair, Michael Barrett, Brian Hoschild, Virginia Snowpeck, and Wayne Wilson Sr. The next piece of correspondence is from the town clerk. At the last board meeting, the board had instructed me to put the departments that were up at the annex at 215B West Street on our agenda for August 2nd. Apparently the town clerk will be on vacation that week, and does the board wish me to postpone it to the second meeting in August? to meet with the departments to discuss the situation for the departments located up at the 215B West State Street site.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think we need her input on things, so,
Okay,
yes,
so I will reschedule that to the August 16th meeting then.
thank you.
We also have a letter from the Leonard Laflamme, Bruce Laflamme, and Mark Laflamme regarding conversion of use of Chapter 61A property, dated July 1st, 2021. They are looking at subdividing their property that abuts East Street and Morgan Street. The question is does this board have any intention of purchasing this property? Because the reason we're doing that is when we received the notification, it wasn't in the proper format as required under Mass General Law. However, if the board has no intent of purchasing 4.74 acres of property to be converted from Chapter 61A, then there'd be no need to make them have to go through and refile in the proper format. That was after speaking with town council. So does the board have any interest in purchasing the almost 5 acres of land between Morgan Street and East Street? It's out by where the solar farm area is.
So,
I don't see a need for us to purchase the property.
yeah,
Okay.
why is that question asked?
Okay. When someone converts property from 61A with the
Yeah.
intent of selling it to another individual,
Chris, can you just explain to them what 61A is? So
61A is a way of reducing your tax liability. It's a Mass General law,
Yeah.
okay? And there's 61A, B, and C, okay? A has to deal with farmland, horticultural, things of that nature. If you're going to use it as farmland, okay, you get a break on your taxes.
Got it, okay.
Okay? You get a reduced rate because it's for farming, okay? When you want to take that land and sell it, subdivide it and sell it to another person to build houses on, to build a business on, do whatever, okay? Because you went into this section of the law to get a reduced tax rate, what happens is the town gets the right of first refusal to purchase the property, okay?
Got it.
So this is what he's doing. He's notifying us of his intent to remove it from 61A. And the question is the town going to be interested in purchasing this property? Okay? And what they have to do is when they convert it out of 61A or B or C, they have to pay back the taxes owed versus of what they would normally have been billed for the property versus what they actually paid.
Got it.
Okay?
All right.
So does the board want to take a vote whether or not they wish to have any interest in purchasing this property?
yeah, I'll make a motion that we don't have any interest in purchasing the property. What's the number, East Street?
Well, it's
Morgan and East,
Morgan and East because it's
right at that intersection, huh?
actually, yeah, well, let me show you.
Is that Jim Compey's land there too?
No, it's what solar
Further
farm
up
ended
on
up going on. This is Morgan Street that goes down
Yeah.
here. And they abut up on East Street. And what they want to do is, right here is where it comes down in, and it's a big lot like this. It has frontage on both
Yeah.
East and Morgan. And they want to break it up into these sections to try to, I think, to subdivide into another use. And I think they want to keep part of it into
Farming.
farming.
Yeah, I mean,
That's not
I don't see a reason why we'd want to purchase it.
Yeah.
Especially, it sounds like they're looking to probably, obviously subdivide the lots and maybe end up selling them off or building houses, which is more tax revenue for us.
Yep. I'm thinking the same way.
All right?
You make the motion.
I did.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
There's also another letter from Audrey Sudak regarding the town parks and fields. She has a concern over what she's been reading on Facebook regarding the upkeep and maintenance and mowing of both the Dufranes and the Brown Elson fields. She was curious why we are not allowing private residents to come in and assist with mowing the fields on their own time. And she's just trying to find out what's going on. The problem I have is if we allow private residents to come in and mow on our property, there's a liability. They get hurt, whatever, they throw a rock, they hit somebody, they hit somebody's car, they break something, we're liable, okay? I cannot expose the town to that type of a liability, okay? The only other thing that we can do is, if need be, this board makes a concerted effort to create a parks division under that, and their only job is to maintain the fields. And that would probably be 2 to 3 people because of all the acreage that has to be mowed. Okay? We have people out there on a mower 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
Okay?
I think, unfortunately, there's been a lot of rain this past summer and year, which is kind of slowed down the mowing, because obviously when the fields are really wet, they can't get in there and cut with the larger tractors just because they're heavy, and some of the fields is holding more water, so where it gets to be...
The mower sinks right into the...
in there, yep. So end up doing more damage to the fields than good, so unfortunately that's some of the problems that we're having now just with that. And eventually when it gets sunny out again, all that grass is going to start growing, and obviously we're going to, we'll have to put some more time and effort into it to keep up with it probably the next few weeks so we can catch back up where we need to be.
And to be honest with you, we were mowing in the rain last week.
Yeah.
These smaller properties.
It's Jeremy's.
That's
He's doing
Jeremy's
that stuff
area.
right now, right?
Yes, yes. Now, the other thing is people have been complaining because we have a field maintainer, and they feel that they should be able to have the right to use it. Again, it's a piece of town equipment. Someone uses it and gets hurt or injures somebody, we're liable.
Yeah.
And the other fact is, if they break it, who fixes it?
Yeah.
Okay? It's not a cheap piece of equipment, but the issue is if we start letting anybody who wants to use it, it becomes our issue. Okay? And that is one of the reasons why I don't allow people to use our equipment unless they're a town employee. Okay? And that's where I go with it.
That makes perfect sense, and it's just, again, it's liability. Someone should be using equipment that they don't know how to use in the first place. But it definitely is noted about people's concerns, and they have with it. And by all means, I don't want them to think the town is not aware of it, because we are. And obviously, again, there's been some weather delays, I would imagine, for the past, at least past month. And also with vacation time during the summer, it doesn't help out when staff are off, and again, things get backed up a little bit. But again, so hopefully when the sun starts shining again, we'll have the opportunity to get the fields cut, and maybe donate a little more time to it than we would regularly, just to kind of get caught back up to where you need to be. But I know from Dufrane's, part of that field just holds water. It doesn't go anywhere.
It's underwater right now.
And it doesn't, and it ponds up, and
Yes.
it takes forever for it to, go through the ground and stuff like that. So definitely
right.
aware of it.
Chris,
So-
are these people calling you, or are they just sending letters?
This
or
was an email that we received, okay, from this lady. However, everybody makes their comments on Facebook.
Facebook, yeah.
Okay? And I'm sorry, but I don't follow Facebook because it gives a platform for people to complain without having to talk to somebody in person.
Yeah.
And just quickly, I want to mention something that he kind of brought that up, Chris. And I know, so just so everybody knows too, that the Granby Town Meeting Facebook page is not part of the town. That's not a town authorized Facebook page. So a lot of things that are being put on there I know recently someone had mentioned to me some things about the old West Street School, the playground, stuff like that. That property's actually closed. People, that's been closed since the town took it over from the school department. And at one point, there were signs up there not to trespass.
And what happens? People comes in and tear them down.
So when I would ask people, instead of putting negative comments on Facebook, reach out to this office, inquire about it, and get the correct information before, because it's not fair. It's not fair to people that work out there. It's not fair to some of the town employees that take care of that property, and so on and so forth. So, and to put it on there, and it almost looks like to the public that we neglect our playgrounds and things like that. By all means, that's not what we're trying to do. You know, when it comes to services, it's tough sometimes to keep up with some of the properties that we have. And, you know, those are some things that we have to look at. And if it means that we look at additional staff or something like that, then that's something we got to address. But it's not, again, I would ask people to reach out to the town administrator's office here, the select board office, and inquire about things. And we'd get back to them. One of the select board members or yourself, Chris, we'd get back to them on the information. I think that's important. You know, sometimes it's just unfair to some of the people that do the hard work and you know, feel like we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
And again, I think it's, you know, sometimes again it's not fair to make some of those accusations that are not founded. It's not fair to people that think that way of Granby. It's truly not.
I echo his sentiment. It's Facebook, we all know, is a platform to put your opinion out there, and it's not necessarily based in facts. So, and I give kudos to Jeremy and his crew for doing what they're doing in this weather. It's crazy. They work hard at what they're doing, and they can't be in a million places. But
And when equipment breaks down and you can't get the parts,
yeah, and
that puts you even farther behind.
yeah, and something that's obvious to us about the liability issue is not to, unless you're in this business, they're not going to know what that's all about. Why can't we mow it? We could help out the town. And I go, you could hurt the town eventually, like you just said.
So, all right. Well, it's time for your next appointment, so I'll be back afterwards.
Okay, thank you. Okay, up next, the PVPC.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Good. So I do have a PowerPoint to help walk us through.
Okay, before you get into that, could you introduce yourself to me?
Yeah.
I'm new at this, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm Patty Gambarini with the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and I'm the Principal Environmental Planner and Section Leader for Land Use and Environment at PVPC.
Thank you.
Have you worked with any PVPC staff before? Or?
My brother used to work for Ty and Bond, so he's familiar with
Okay.
it. Yeah.
All right, good. Great.
Well,
So
Rick, you're on the PowerPoint. We're gonna get one.
Yeah,
If I can open it.
death by PowerPoint.
Let me just grab my glasses.
That was all our training last year, is PowerPoint.
PowerPoint.
Oh,
That was great when it came out 15 years ago.
yeah, that's what I'm sure you had to do the same thing.
Okay, so I'm hoping this advances like I normally do. So I wanted to talk with you tonight about the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant that the town has, and we have been subcontracted to work with you on that grant. And I talked with the board last November and sort of gave a brief overview of the project work, and we have since, we've done a bunch of work these past bunch of months, and there's an extension that's been granted by the State Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs for us to continue the work into fiscal year 22. So it would end next June. So that's great. It makes it a lot easier to sort of have a more extended time frame on this. So our project partners on this, Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, which provided the grant. We subcontracted with you, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and we have also brought on board Dodson and Flinker to do some of the regulatory review work with us. So that's the partners. And there's an advisory group as well of, you had appointed people last fall to sit on an advisory group to help us walk through some of this work. So I thought tonight it would be good to provide some context for the project work, talk about some of the project elements, and then work to date specifically on the municipal code side of things, because you're probably hearing and seeing some of that already. Let's see. So to provide some context, it's great it's been raining so much because it makes it easy to talk about extremes and weather and what we've been experiencing. And it used to be that farmers and sailors were the only people who really worried about the weather. But I think today we can open up a newspaper and see all kinds of stuff about wildfires raging in the west and floods in the south, you know, due to extreme precipitation. And this morning, if you looked at any news feeds, I mean, you saw that we have had 8 inches of rain between July 1st and July 14th, probably a lot more in the past bunch of days with the extreme downpours we've had. Granby, there was news in the Daily Hampshire Gazette about East Street collapsing, and in Palmer, there are road issues there on, I forgot the name of the road, but these localized flooding issues are really destroying infrastructure that doesn't have the capacity to deal with the certain flows or the inundations or even the drying or cold that happens in winter due to extremes in weather. So why is this, you know, shift happening in our weather? It's due largely to carbon emissions. And the International Panel on Climate Change came up with sort of a scenarios thing, talking about if we look out to the end of the century and we continue to operate as we do, pumping as much carbon into our atmosphere, we're going to increase temperature, global temperatures, pretty significantly. If we take action and are able to reduce those impacts, we have less severe scenarios in front of us with less increases in temperature, but there's still some increase no matter what. So how does this translate to where we live? The Northeast Climate Science Center at UMass is doing a lot of modeling and predicting, and this is looking out forward, but you can see there are extremes in temperatures. So taking that baseline between 1971 and 2000, we have typically had 6 days with temperatures above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If we go with that high emission scenario, we could have as many as an additional 76 days or 82 days that are above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. If we're able to control that emission of carbon, we'll still have some, but it will be 15 days additional 90 degrees, above 90 degrees. So it's a better scenario. I think we all want to try to work in curbing, you know, going solar, going electric, walking, biking, wherever we can. So that's the mitigation side of things. And then in precipitation, so as we warm, there's more water vapor. It's sort of a supercharger for the water cycle, so more water vapor can be stored in the air. And the atmosphere has to become more supersaturated before rainfall, so we're getting more extreme rainfall. And so if we look at this extension out to the end of the century, we're at 46.4 as our baseline in 2000. We could get an additional 8.3 inches a year, or as low as 1.7 inches a year. I think it seems like we're already having a lot more rain. So and this was done in 2018, I think. But so that's the modeling that they've done and what they're predicting in temperature and precipitation for our region. Looking back at the existing data record, and this goes back to 1958 and looks at that period up to 2016, already it's clear that there's like big changes happening in terms of the larger precipitation events. The Pacific Northwest is drying with 9% less rain or heavy downpours than they saw before. And clearly in the Northeast, we're way up there with, with an increase of 55% of heavy downpours. So we've, as we've developed our landscape, we've kind of added to the problem. Our forests are really good at soaking up rainfall and, infiltrating the rainfall. When we develop a landscape, this is my neighborhood in East Hampton, we're creating roads, rooftops, and channeling all water from our roofs down our driveways to the roadways that then go into catch basins and then go into rivers and streams. And you can see from those diagrams on the left, these are really just for point of comparisons. I don't know specifically what soils they're talking about in these diagrams, because some soils have greater capacity to soak up than others. But you can just see the ratios of infiltration on the left, where a forested landscape can infiltrate 50% of rainfall, compared to a much more developed landscape that brings it way down to 15%. So that means a lot more runoff coming off of that landscape that's developed. So just to bring the point home a little more, this is a diagram on the left showing, it goes off the rooftop, down the gutters, into the driveways, into the roads, the catch basins, and then out to the nearest river and stream. And that's what we've been doing. That's how we've been managing stormwater for years. And so we do get localized flooding issues when we do get these big storms. And none of these photos are from Granby, but they are from different communities throughout the region. So rather than continue down that path that will add to problems, create more public cost in the future, it's important to find ways now to improve standards for development and redevelopment projects so that we don't run into more problems. The great thing, so there's the mitigation, sort of reducing our carbon footprint, right? And then the other side is adaptation, which means we're going to have to adapt somehow to these changes that are coming. And what's fortunate in some ways is that the strategies to deal with greater extremes in heat and rainfall are really complementary, so that you reduce impervious cover. Impervious cover are roadways, our rooftops. So do you need as huge a parking lot for this development or not? So you can make better choices along the way. So reduced impervious cover and greater use of green infrastructure, and green infrastructure can be those forested landscapes that really help us manage water better, or they can be vegetated stormwater facilities that really allow you to soak up rainfall a lot better. So those kinds of strategies help to cool during hot temperatures, because you know how hot the parking lot or roadway can get. So if you're thinking about, more trees, more vegetation, you're helping to cool those temperatures. And you're also creating a landscape that more easily absorbs increased rainfall, so you have less runoff. So I know in a lot of circles, the MS4 permit is a municipal separate storm sewer permit that EPA has issued. And it started in 2003. There was a new permit in 2016. And I know that it adds burden to municipalities to comply with this permit. And I certainly work with a lot of municipalities in helping to meet some of the permit requirements. But I also think there's a real plus side to this, because the permit, because of what it's asking communities to do, is helping us move the needle on some of this consideration for reduced impervious cover for vegetated stormwater facilities. So EPA can only regulate on water quality, but it does translate to some of those other things I was talking to. And in the MS4 permit, the two major pieces that they look at and they're asking municipalities to advance or requiring really is to control site runoff during construction so that you're preventing that transport of erosion and sediment into rivers and streams, which decrease capacity of those channels. And the other side is reducing stormwater pollutants post-construction. So that means, you know, having those stormwater vegetated facilities so that you're holding more stormwater on site rather than sending it down into rivers and streams. So going back to the MVP project we have with you, there's two pieces to this. There's the regulatory review. I've been working with Chris and Dave extensively these past bunch of months on stormwater management and MS4 compliance and erosion and sediment control. There are additional elements there that are bulleted in zoning and subdivision regulations that we'll work on in the coming year. This year, we also did work on updating the floodplain overlay district in your zoning bylaw to comply with requirements that the state has now. They have a model bylaw. And so we worked with that to make those updates. And then the other side of the work is on updates to the master plan. You have a 2016 master plan. And so my colleague, Emily Slotnick, who has moved on, she did do a lot of work this year in the master plan. And she reviewed all the chapters, flagged where there need to be sort of more consideration of climate resilience, and then also developed an outline for a new chapter on climate resilience that can be appended to your existing master plan. We're not going to be rewriting the 2016 master plan, but we are going to provide some recommendations and then that standalone chapter that will help you. And as part of that, there's going to be a community survey about lived experience of shifts in climate, and then updates to mapping the GIS data layers that are important for those climate resiliency considerations. So maybe I should pause right here and ask if there are any questions. I'll get into some of the detail on the updates that we provided.
That's fine.
Okay, good, all right. So on the stormwater management and erosion and sediment control, the recommendation is to include something in your general bylaws. Most of this is in your the sewer use regulations. And so we've been talking about adding a stormwater chapter that would cover illicit discharges, detection and elimination elements that are really important to comply with the MS4 permit. And also this chapter would cover the stormwater management permit and include section on purpose and authority, definitions, applicability and exemptions, administration, enforcement and penalties, and severability. So it's sort of the bare bones of stormwater management in the general bylaw. So including this in your general bylaw really enables those regulations that appear in the sewer use regulations. The project review threshold is 40,000 square feet of disturbance or more. And it includes now development and redevelopment projects. So anything with a disturbance of that amount of earth needs to apply for a stormwater management permit. And then
It's just over an acre, right?
it's under an acre. But yeah. Right. And the MS4 permit is an acre or more. But since you work so much, I think a lot of your lot lines are developed around are around the 40,000 square foot, so it was easier to use that marker. And then it identifies exemptions. So agricultural and logging activities that meet certain standards are exempt. Redevelopment activities that are exclusively limited to maintenance and improvement of existing municipal roadways. So if you're doing anything that doesn't mean you're widening the road another lane, that can be exempt. And that was something that EPA put in the latest version because municipalities and the public works officials were like worried that they would have to get go through stormwater review for, intersection widening or, little things like that. Then the other exemptions are repairs to stormwater treatment system deemed necessary by Public Works and emergency activity as determined by Public Works. So then on the regulation side of things, we're recommending a separate section within the sewer use regulations so that for anyone coming to get a stormwater management permit, it's clear and understandable. Because right now it's all intertwined and it's really hard to separate out what's specifically required. So during, the two sides of it, there's a during construction and post-construction. So during construction, there are standards for erosion and sediment control, and those have been, a lot of these are in the sewer use regulations currently, but have been beefed up in one way or another based on the new MS4 permit requirements. So there's enhanced standards for erosion and sediment control. Site plan review incorporates the requirement for low impact development now. And low impact development, in case you're not used to that lingo, I put a little box here. It's an approach for development projects. And the idea is to, at first, protect the important parts of your site, but then use strategies that, that embrace those sort of natural solutions. So you're trying to mimic a site's pre-development hydrology, protecting on-site features, limiting impervious areas, and using small-scale facilities to soak up rainfall. And then the last major bullet point here is site inspections. There's a much more rigorous program of site inspections that need to happen. So we just elaborated on that and set it up so that the town can be sure to make sure you're getting all of what you need. And then post-construction, there's specific standards for reduction of stormwater pollutants. So there's definitions, LID planning and design is required unless not feasible. And we included specifics on what that means. And then there's new standards for stormwater management for development and redevelopment projects. And those are carried over and reflected in the required submissions so that Public Works, when they're reviewing a project, they know the standards and they can see it in what the submissions are that are being provided. There also is a requirement for submitting as-built drawings for all controls to manage stormwater. And then there's detail on operation and maintenance plans for all stormwater management practices. So then in the floodplain overlay district and the zoning bylaw, we made these updates that I think will be really helpful as it becomes required for you to do this. It's not clear when those new flood maps are going to be in your hands, but the state has said that they'll start coming to communities as they're getting those flood maps and doing sort of an audit to make sure they have everything in place. So we used the state model. There was a 2020 state model developed for compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program. And we walk through the floodplain overlay district, which is where you have all of these, this information and standards. So some of the recommendations we included, and we provided the language, are some new definitions, a more elaborated section on the purpose of the floodplain overlay district, corrected references. They've adjusted the references to the FEMA maps and supporting studies. And then standards that update requirements. They clarify permitting required and where permitting for proposed developments fall in the review process. This is just an email from the state coordinator on compliance, and it's what I kind of already said, that the state will be coming town by town and reviewing as you get your floodplain map updates. So that is it, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
So all your recommendations regarding to the bylaws have been put there in place already?
Yes, there's a marked up copy of the bylaw that we provided. And there are a couple of, fine tuning that needs to happen there. And like the regulations, there's a fee schedule that needs to happen before that can be adopted. Yeah. And town council also reviewed the stormwater bylaw, and he and I sort of interfaced on some of that. So that was good. Yeah. Yeah.
You do not have any questions? Nothing for the I'm all set.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good night.
You too.
Chris, we got about 7 minutes to kill before the next group. Okay.
Okay. Next item is, and you touched upon it when you were talking about Facebook, West Street School, the playground equipment. I would like the board to declare it surplus property. I have a person who contacted us and is interested in the equipment, and will remove it free of charge for us.
Is there any use that we could use it for?
No, I talked to Jeremy about it, and at this point, he says no. A lot of it is not in a good enough condition for us to assume a liability for it.
Those sleds have been there since I've been there. And I've been going.
There's been some updates to the playground.
Right, but when I talked to Jeremy about it, should we keep it, his answer was no. When he's looked at it, there are some that have broken pieces on it and so on and so forth. So he would rather see it go instead of risking someone getting injured using it, even though, because he has it roped off, he has it, no trespassing, but again, people just go in and use it.
I was just wondering if it's something that we could repair and relocate it to somewhere else, another park or a school or something like that, would benefit residents instead of having someone else benefit.
The school didn't want it when they moved. They left it there on purpose because they wanted newer equipment.
Okay.
It's not worthwhile moving it to the playground area out at Dufresne's. We have enough issues there. We have a couple, I think, broken pieces out there that we need to look at addressing. We also have issues out there also of, it's getting, I guess, a little weedy underneath the playground equipment. So I don't know if we want to bring in some crushed rubber, because I don't think you can use wood chips anymore under playground equipment.
What we had out there was the crushed rubber before.
Right.
But what's out there now?
So we would have to go and buy crushed rubber and probably go through and lay down all fresh material. So personally, I don't see the need to try and resurrect or keep this equipment going. I'd rather see it be declared surplus and have someone take it away free of charge.
Yeah, I mean, if we can have someone take it away free of charge, and we don't have I don't want to say a need or a use for it, yeah.
I have no issues with it. See it go away.
Okay. And I will contact that individual and tell him that he can come and take it.
Perfect.
So, okay.
Yeah, I would like to see before he comes in and takes it, that there's a type of agreement that's made, so it's just not like holes in the ground and stuff like that.
Okay, we will,
Yeah.
I will have Jeremy meet the individual and look at the site before he leaves to make sure that it's left in a condition that does not create a liability on our part.
Right, well, that's my concern.
That's,
If need be, then we need to look at us taking the necessary action to make sure that it's not that way.
yes. Liability is uppermost in my mind when
Yes.
when I start doing anything, so, okay.
And I know kids go there still, play on it. It's
Yeah.
definitely an attractive nuisance.
It is,
Yeah.
it is. And, I'd rather remove it before we have
That's an issue.
a big issue, a big injury there, so, okay. Dufresne Rentals, I think I have time to do those. First one is Friends of Granby Veterans on September 12th, 2021. It is maximum number of people, 150. It's a barbecue fundraiser for the Friends of Granby Veterans. Arriving 11 a.m., departing 7 p.m. We have, and that's for the parking lot area, open field, wooded areas on the other side of the open field, and the pavilion. I have Northeast Middle School meets, Friday, October 22nd, 2021, arriving 1 p.m., departing 6 p.m. Maximum number of people, 250. Liquor, no. For the pavilions and bathrooms, cross-country track meet. We have one, huh?
What is it?
It's a cross-country track. When? October 22nd. It's a Friday. We have one for Don Ellis for July 25th, 2021, arriving 10 a.m., departing 1 p.m. Liquor authorized, no. Maximum number of people, 50. It's a wedding ceremony, and that's it.
Will your motion approve those?
Go ahead.
Well,
Comments?
I'll do a comment. Are we gonna, can we waive the fee for the Friends of Granby?
If the board wishes to, they can.
Absolutely.
Even though, we do have a minimum fee that we charge for nonprofits, which basically covers our costs. That's it.
Yeah, so we're just changing the minimum, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
For the facility and stuff, okay, that's fine.
It's basically to cover our costs or open, close,
Yep,
things of that
that's
nature.
fine. The minimum charge. Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion that we approve the Dufresne rentals.
I'll second that. All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Charter Day Committee. You're up.
Yes. All right.
Welcome.
Thank you. Crystal Dufresne, Chair of the Charter Day Committee. We are looking to do a food truck Saturday here in Granby. We haven't had Charter Day for 2 years now because of COVID. So we were trying to come up with different things that we could do to build community in our town since we haven't had that event. So only a couple of us from the committee were able to get together so far, so nothing's been voted on, and of course we have to ask you guys first if we can move forward with it. But we're looking for an event which would kind of be like a fall festival. We're looking at October 9th with a rain date of October 16th. We are looking for 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Just so it makes it worth it for the food trucks that we're asking to pay us to be there, so that they can serve lunch and dinner, and then if people have like a later dinner or something like that. So what we were looking to do is the food trucks, we were planning on doing 2 live bands just to draw people in for the community to bring them to the food trucks. I did speak very briefly to GAA and asked them if they would be willing, if we do move forward with this, to do a kickball tournament for the kids, and they absolutely want to do that. I talked to the interim fire chief about a ceremonial bonfire at night, and it just so happens that that week is their fire safety week, so we would be ending the fire safety week with a bonfire if we are able to have it on site. So they thought it was a great idea as well.
Sure, that's what we end fire safety week with.
Yes, yeah, with training and everything.
They can put it out.
And then possibly also, depending on if we can get a screen or not, doing a movie in the park at night for the kids. So we're looking into possibly renting that from Taylor Rental and seeing if we can get a good deal on it or not. I did speak to the Historical Society, Terry Johnson as well, and she has old-fashioned games that she has had for 2 years trying to use them at Charter Days, and it got canceled, so she wants to do old-fashioned games with them that day as well. We haven't reached out to the churches yet because it started to kind of spiral from there, and I'm like, you know, the first thing I need to do is first get approval or from you guys that we can move forward with this event. I did also reach out to the interim police chief, O'Grady, for a quote as well for police detail to see how much it would be for police officers that day. So I also have that, which I do believe is in your folder. So.
Are you looking at alcohol there?
Oh, so possibly yes, depending on if we can come up with something reasonable that works for everyone.
Okay.
So we would like to have the Legion there doing a beer tent for the day. So they would start at noon, was it, you guys? Noon, and then I think usually with Charter Day we would end, I think last call is 15 minutes or I don't remember if it was 30 minutes or 15 minutes before the close of the event.
Was it right after the fireworks ended, I thought?
Well, we went to, yeah, and the band stopped at 10, right? Or 10:30. 10:15. But now we're not going to 11, we're only going till 10.
Right,
So it would,
we want the same kind of courtesy, like 9:15 or so, that's it. Shut it
Okay.
down, so.
so, yeah. So,
Sounds like a lot of good ideas.
okay.
Is that other members of your committee back there?
Yes, so there's Jen Bernatachis, who is a member of the Charter Day Committee, and Bridget Roy. And then the other 2 gentlemen are from the Granby Legion Post 266, which is who would be putting on the beer tent.
The beer tent.
Yep.
I do know if you have a movie outdoors,
Yeah,
you have people like involved and come and see it and they pay to see it, or
a copyright.
they have to copyright,
Yep.
to get a license for it to do it.
It's about $200 and something. I did it, so I was an advisor for 4 years for a class at the high school at Granby
As long
High.
as you know, I did the one thing I
Yeah.
didn't know was that.
Yes, you do have to pay, it depending on the movie company and how old the movie is, depends on how much you pay. The newer the movie, the more you pay.
Got it.
So
So,
both sides of Dufrane's? Both sides of the pond?
nope, we were just gonna stay on the gazebo side. Yep, so nothing on the field unless we needed it for parking, but we're estimating probably 100 to 150 people at one time in the park. We don't expect there to be thousands. We're not having fireworks. We're not really promoting it besides in the community. So I'm not going to pay for like radio ads or anything like that, like we did for Charter Day. So, I mean, we can't tell people from out of town that they can't come, but we're not promoting it to everybody like we would Charter Days.
How many food trucks are you hoping to have?
We're hoping for 10. So the reason why we chose October 9th as a date is because it doesn't interfere with the Biggie or the Belchertown Fair. So it's right after everything ends. So the Biggie ends October 2nd, and I think the Belchertown Fair is in September. It was the last weekend in September. So we didn't want to have to compete for food trucks with them. But we are, and as far as bands, we're not having a big band. We're getting whoever we can get, because at this point a lot of them are booked. So it's very hard to find a band that can play. So it'd be 2 hours for one band probably, and 2 hours for another band. Most bands don't really play the 3 hours. We might be able to find one or two that do that, but it's really just to draw people in and have music in the background, really, while people are doing other events. We're not asking any vendors to be there either. I just think that that gets too crazy. But actually, if we do the kickball tournament, we will have to use the other side of the field, because we'll have to use the baseball diamond for that. So we will have to use that other side, if GAA can do that.
And if you get the movie, probably keep them away from the beer.
Yeah, they would probably be on the other side too. We would probably have to set it up there. So it would have to be a quiet generator then, because there's no electricity on that side.
Yeah.
Either that or, well, no, because the bands will be done. Yeah, we haven't really figured that out yet. We're in
Sounds like
the,
they have some great ideas.
yeah, we're just in the planning stages of it.
Move forward, I think.
Okay.
It's great idea.
Okay. So the other thing that I wanted to discuss with you guys was just the police officer detail that we received from Chief O'Grady. I don't know if you guys have that in front of you.
It's in the appointment folder. It's in the appointment folder.
So we are expecting about 100 to 150 people. So based on this police detail, we have from 12 to 4, 2 cops in the general food truck area. And then if we are able to have the beer tent, we would have 2 cops from 12 to 4 in the beer tent area. Then after that, from 4 to 11, we have 3 in the food truck area. And from 4 to 11, or, you know, we would adjust that to 10, because that's when our closing time is. From 4 to 11 in the beer tent, we also have 2. And then from 6 to 11, we're going to have 5 police officers on site in the food truck area. So this isn't a normal Charter Days. We're not having fireworks. At a normal Charter Day event, we would have about 2,000 people on site at any given time. We get.
Is it 10 or 11? Beer.
We're going to close at 10, but the quote, I don't think, Officer Grady and I didn't really get into, or sorry, Chief O'Grady and I didn't really get into specifics on times. So he just gave me what was on file. Yeah, he just gave me what was on file for a typical Saturday Charter Day. So if we look at a typical Charter Day Saturday, we have about 2,000 people on site typically at one time. So that would be from 4 to 11, that would be our 5 officers, typically. But if we're only expecting 100 to 150 people for this community event, I think it would be fair to reduce the police officer presence based on the number of people that we're expecting. So I don't think we need 5. If we do and I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything, I just think that this quote, it might have been misunderstood what the event was. Like, it's not a Charter Day Saturday. It's just a food truck Saturday, you know what I mean?
Right, but you also have said maybe we'll be on the other side of the pond, maybe we won't. You're saying 100, 150, we don't know.
Right.
You're bringing bands in. I was just trying to speculate. My understanding of this was, when we talked, was this was going to go from noon or so to 10 or 11, and it was going to be basically food trucks and bands and all kinds of stuff. So that's why I quoted the way we did. I mean, this is actually 2 people less than we usually have at Charter Day in the later evening. And where's the bonfire going to be?
So that would typically be on the pavilion side in the field.
Well,
so that
every
means
other
people
bonfire
can't park
has been
there.
over. Every other bonfire has been over on the other side of the park.
Where the
where
truck pulls are?
Where the horse, because they
Corral.
always did it the day before the fireworks.
Okay.
And that may be a fire safety concern. If all your cars are all over the place, they may want you on the other side. So at that point, we're gonna need to keep a few people on one side and a few people on the other. So I don't believe this is unreasonable at all.
It's not quite together yet. I think we'll have to deal with that when it comes up. I think I'm going to rely on the chief to determine the amount of officers there. But
So
I
according to,
understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, if you only get 50 people show up, you don't need 1 million officers there. But
right. So if we look at
I have a
the,
feeling you're going to get more than what you get.
so if we look at the percentage-wise, the Dufresne Park contract says 150 or more, or around 150, you need 1 officer. Is that correct?
At the discretion of the chief.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we have a reduced number, then the police officer presence will not be reduced, or it will be reduced? I'm sorry, I'm getting a little confused at what's being
I
stated.
think it's up to the chief's discretion. I think you're going to have a better turnout than you're expecting.
So my only concern is our main goal for this event is not to make money, because Charter Days is not going to make money off of this, but to break even.
Yeah, I get it.
So if we look at this police coverage, I don't even think there's any way, because we're not charging people to come into the park, so we're only going to make revenue off the food trucks. Unless we charge everyone $5 to enter, which was not our plan, because it was just a community building event. So we cannot make this happen with this police detail the way it is, or officer detail the way it is, unless we charge. So I guess that's a decision that we also have to make, is are we charging people to come, or are we just making a community event where they can come?
Where would you need to be?
So if we, even if we get 200,
Money-wise, not officer-wise, but money-wise.
so if we get 200 people that show up, in order to just pay for the police detail, nothing else, we need to charge $10.72 per person, so $11 per person. If we also rope in the beer tent on that, we would have to charge $17 per person just to pay for the police detail, and that's just getting 200 people. So we're just trying to come up with something that obviously keeps our town safe, but is something that we can financially also afford as a committee.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's, in my point of view, it's safety first. I get it, you can't go broke kind of thing, but that's some logistics you guys are gonna have to work out. You might have to charge money for parked cars.
Which is a decision that the select board makes, because we don't set the price for Charter Day. We suggest a price, but then you guys let us know what you want to
Not in
charge.
favor of charging people to park for food trucks.
No, I get it, it's a community losing bet, but
Yeah.
it's, how do you reduce it and still be safe?
Yeah, I just, and chief, you know what is needed.
There's always the.
Again, that's a rough estimate. I mean, judging by, that's 2 people less than we have at Charter Day. But what I was told was there's gonna be, my understanding was several bands, all kinds of events going on. I went to make sure the officers were gonna be, or the people are gonna be safe and the officers are gonna be safe as well. If they come up with a smaller plan, maybe we can look at it again, but when I'm just asked about what would happen on an event, I went with what I felt was reasonable. I think your number, like Mr. Bollier said, I think your number's low, 100, 150 people at a time. I think it's gonna be busier than that. So we have to make sure that people are safe as well as the officers.
Which is a good thing for your committee to hear. I mean, I think the town's starving for some community event.
I would agree with Rick, I think, because there's been a lot of, I use the word disappointment in Charter Days.
Yeah.
You know, it's a lot of looking forward to that. So I think you know, to advertise it would be good. Like I said, in town, it's a town
Yeah.
function, but, you know, a lot of people know people that don't
Right.
live in town, And those people are, I'm sure, gonna start coming and stuff like that, so.
I don't think it's gonna be crazy like charter days was. I mean, but you're gonna get more people than that, what you told me.
But I think as the chief spoke to, that this is an estimate, so looking as, you start to firm up your plans, your thoughts, your ideas, it's maybe something that the chief can look at that point and go from there.
I just don't want to get to the part where we have everything all planned out, everyone's looking forward to it, and then we can't do it because we don't have the money. Because if we pull from the charter day account for this, we're not going to have money for charter days. We only have about 19,000 in the bank, and I know that sounds like a lot, but it's not. An average charter day is at least 26,000. So that's my concern, because we're already low, you know what I mean? So I just want to break even, so.
Which is understood, you don't want to function the cost.
Right.
Cost of money, which is understandable. But I think as we closer to put a lot of it, to kind of finalize things,
Yeah.
and then, coming from this board, it gives us a little more understanding and leeway to say, okay, that makes sense where you are with figures and stuff like that. Maybe, the chief can look at things at that point too and see where they are as far as, what is needed for officers. I mean, like I said, right now, you don't know if you'll be on just one side of the park or not. You could expand to the other side. You don't know if you're going to have two bands or one band. I mean,
Yeah.
So those things could change. So I think any of that change could change the number of maybe officers that are needed as well.
And the GAA was asking me if they could charge a small fee for the tournament so that they could also make some money off of it. So I didn't have a problem with that, but I don't know if you guys have to weigh in on that, or so it was going to be like $5 either a participant, or it was going to be a team fee because it is a tournament. So they might just do a team fee on it. So I didn't know if you guys needed to say yes or no, but they did ask me if that was a possibility. They didn't say for sure that they were going to do that, but they did ask if it was a possibility.
A lot of tournaments charge teams a fee to participate
Right.
in it, so.
I would try to narrow that down with them. What are you guys gonna do with that? Are you gonna have teams, or are you just gonna have, pick sides when they get there?
No, it would be,
Make a roster,
So,
with a
similar-
$100 check or something like that?
so it'd be similar to how I used to run the volleyball tournament at the high school. They make their own team. If they want, they can have a team name. They can make t-shirts for themselves. It gets them all pumped up and excited about it. And then everyone puts in however many players are going to be on that team. They put in a small amount to cover the team cost, is how I used to do it. So I assume, or obviously I'll clarify with them that that's what they're going to do. But the teams are going to be ahead of time, but I did want them to have at least a couple teams that can be built that day for kids that show up, so that we're not leaving any kids out. So if a kid doesn't have a team and they want to play, they can join a team.
I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fees to the GA can raise money as well.
Yeah, for equipment and stuff. Okay.
Mr. Martin, do you have something to say before you go?
I just have a question. Have you been in touch with the Board of Health at all regarding the food trucks and what their requirements will be?
I did get an email from Kathy Regan saying that the food trucks need to have their paperwork in a month ahead of time.
That's town clerk. I'm talking Board of Health.
No,
For
she,
inspections and what they're going to require that they have there.
Okay.
I'm just asking the question. That's
no,
all.
I haven't been, because I wanted to get the okay first before I move forward with everything.
Okay, because
Yeah.
they may have issues that may cost you money too, for all I know.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did get an email speaking of that, I believe for a one-day service, the Board of Health wanted their stuff in at least a month in advance
Yep.
as well. I saw an email about that.
Okay.
Not long ago, so.
Any of the veterans back there want to speak up on that? You got any input? Rob?
All right, now.
Okay.
What I'd look to do too is if you could, maybe do some advertisement there for people too. Is maybe have some signs, maybe put signs out there for advertisement for,
in front of the park?
well, around the park or something like that. Simple things like they do for the golf tournaments or something like
Yeah.
that. Just, it's a simple way to raise some revenue to offset a cost, It doesn't really cost you much. It costs you dollars to have a sign made, but in the same token, you could maybe charge $100 to a business or someone that wants to have a sign put up there for something.
Oh, for sponsorship?
Sponsorship,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
I know Polish National donated $1,000 2 years ago now to Charter Days that they had us hold on to, but they are eager to also be involved. So they will probably want to be there for the event as well. So.
Perfect. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think I said everything. Yeah, we're good. Yep.
Before we go, you guys in the committee back there, for Charter Day Committee, I want to thank you guys for stepping up to do this. We don't have enough town people volunteering for stuff. It's a hard task you got.
Thank you.
And speak for myself and the board, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Great ideas.
They can have the dollar.
She wants to speak at the,
Want to do that?
yeah, that's where we are.
Yep. I thought they were removed. Ms. Candace, can you step forward, please? Lillian? I spoke to her a couple weeks ago.
Will I get the hot seat here?
I wouldn't call it that.
So my request is, I'm representing the Fogies, the Friends of the Granby's Elderly, and we have a concert coming up. It's a free concert. We have the Dan Kane Singers. It's tomorrow night. We had a concert last month, and the parking where people usually park when you go into Dufresne's on the left in the grass is blocked off, and we had people parking down the road on Kendall Street. Bad move. People on wheelchairs were coming up Kendall Street. And Dan Kane always brings at least a couple of hundred more than we had for our regular ones. So we were wondering if somebody could remove the pole just for tomorrow night so we could have people parking there.
Did you go there since I talked to you last week?
Did we go?
To the park? Because I made a phone call.
I was there this afternoon.
And they're still there?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm assuming you don't want it open during, when nothing's going on. But,
I think we can make a request to have those removed for you.
right, otherwise.
You looking to park on the grass?
Pardon?
Are you looking to park on the grass?
Yeah, they usually do.
And
People
have you
use
been
it.
there recently? I didn't understand what she was talking about when I talked to her.
You drive in,
Yeah.
it's on the left there, and the pavilion's on the right.
It's not a lot of parking, but there's, and they're boulders in the way.
Well, we have 200-300 people or more
Yeah.
coming to this from
Yeah,
all
Dan
over.
Kane's, he's popular too.
There are holes in the ground too, but I didn't put
Well-
that on the list.
That's my concern, is that area okay for people to park on?
Well, the holes are in the roadway. Big,
Potholes.
Which the
Potholes.
highway department is planning on grading tomorrow.
ooh. Okay, forget that, it's already taken care of.
Yeah, I guess we can look at, maybe moving the pole.
It's just moving it aside, and then, I don't know, I guess the next day somebody would have to come, and we would direct people to park there, that way they're not all over Kendall Street or wherever.
I wish Dave was still here, I mean,
He knows about this.
Yeah, but I wanted to ask him that, is it easy to move it back? But it makes a lot of sense, that, you don't need the people parking on Kendall Street on the side, especially with, everything's soaking wet right now. Especially the side of the road, because that's where all the runoff is.
And it wouldn't look good for Granby to have people parking out in the road
No,
from
no,
out of
more
town?
about
Well,
where
we don't
people
know if the
stuck.
grassy area is gonna be able to support, or gonna put ruts in it either.
Well, that's my
Right.
concern, that's why I said, you know, how is that area as far as parking lot too, because,
And there may be some areas that look a little lower than the rest, so they may be off limits, that sort of thing.
so that's something we need to look at, maybe that Dave look at as well, is to make sure that the vehicles that are being parked over there, two things, they don't sink into the ground, and, because that could create a big
Yep.
problem, when a vehicle gets stuck, especially if anyone else is parked there, so we gotta make sure that's not the case, so the ground is suitable to have cars parked on it and travel across that area too. Because like I said, last thing I want is to create ruts and stuff like that, it becomes another problem, but also when anybody's vehicles get stuck, because then tow trucks and so on and so forth.
Right, right, we don't want to ruin the grass and everything else
Yeah.
there.
Again, unfortunately, talked about earlier, just all the rain we've had lately it's not been
Yeah.
our friend on some points, so.
Okay.
But Chris, can you follow up with Dave tomorrow and just kind of get an update on it and how he thinks it would be and go from there? Obviously, I think if we can, it doesn't create any issues or problems, I don't see a reason why not. But if, you know, it could create issues with, lick around and, you know, cars sinking and not suitable for parking on it, then I'd have to say no at that point. Like I said,
In which case, we will have people parking out on the street. We don't have any control over that.
Which could happen, you know, and
Yeah.
again, and Mr. Martin mentioned it earlier, when it comes to liability, we open that up for parking, we started people parking over there, and their vehicles get stuck.
Right,
Who's responsible for getting the vehicle out? Are we responsible because we opened up, let people park on it? Or is that person that owns the vehicle responsible, or, you know, so, listen, we gotta look at the land and make sure it's suitable for parking and go from there. But, because I agree 100% with you, but again, someone chooses to park on the side of the road, that's a choice, versus us opening up an area to people to park on. And I'm hoping it's dry so they can park over there, or suitable enough to park cars on it, because I don't think parking on the side of the road is a worthy
no,
plan either, so.
okay. That's all I had.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah.
There's one other topic that just came in today, actually. Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, we have a contract with them to do the MVP work that Patty just presented to you.
Yep.
However, that contract expired June 30th, 2021. What we would like to do is make an amendment to allow that contract to now expire June 30th, 2022, so they can complete the work. And I have a contract amendment there that requires the signature of the chairman of the board, and I'd like to have a vote from the board to allow the chairman to sign said contract amendment.
I'll make a motion to allow the chair of the select board to sign the PVC agreement, extending it to
June 30th, 2022.
June 30th, 2022.
All those in favor?
You got a second?
Oh, I say, sorry, second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And there's 2 copies of it there, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next.
On to new business.
New business interview.
Has the board read all the departmental reports?
I have.
I have. And one question was about the damage to the door at the fire department, safety center. The door closed on its own.
that's,
Follow the chief exactly what happened. I mean, it's kind of brief as to what took place, but a little more details as to what took place. I mean, I just know the cost of the repairs too. Because, I mean, obviously, if the door came down by itself, is it a faulty system or something?
okay.
And I already talked about Jeremy with the Facebook and West Street School.
He's very demoralized over
Yeah,
some of
yeah,
those,
I-
some of those comments that are being made out there, which isn't fair.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately, you can't stop people from making comments as such, but that's why I said I would encourage people, if you have an issue, a comment, and sincerely, if you want it taken care of or looked into, please contact the select board office or yourself, Mr. Martin, for follow-up.
So is there a motion to accept the departmental reports?
I'll make a motion to accept departmental reports.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item, you have 7 warrants in front of you. First one is for fiscal year 2021. Warrant number 81 in the amount of $401,490.67. For fiscal year 2021, warrant number 82 in the amount of $164,315.20. For fiscal year 2022, warrant number 01 dated July 1, 2021 in the amount of $1,781,149.97.
Chris, what's the number on that one? 80?
No one.
Oh,
01,
that's the first one for 2020?
2022, yes, for fiscal year 22. That one is so large because that's where we pay our assessment to the retirement board. That's like $1.3 million. And then we have a few other ones that we pay for our maintenance agreements that are due actually July 1. So I just want to make sure we don't lose out on certain items. Then we have warrant number 2 dated July 2nd, 2021 in the amount of $9,471.49. That is a bill paying warrant. Warrant number 3 dated July 9th, 2021 in the amount of $481,006.30. That is a payroll warrant. We have warrant number 4 dated July 9th, 2021 in the amount of $98,050.51. That is the maintenance warrant that goes along with the payroll warrant. And then we have warrant number 5 dated July 16th, 2021 in the amount of $345,410.83. And the reason that one is up is because that's when we paid our liability insurance and our workers' comp premiums.
We're busy spending money.
Yes, we have.
All right, well, with that said, I'll make a motion to approve and sign maintenance warrants 81 and 82 for fiscal year 2021. And for fiscal year 2022, warrant 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, on the next item, affirm appointments for the Charter Day Committee. We have 2 additional members being requested to be appointed to the committee, in addition to those you appointed at your last meeting. The first one is Carol Nobes of 124 Taylor Street, and the second one is Lindsay Nobes of 124 Taylor Street. That will be through June 30th, 2022.
last name was Knowles?
Nobes, N-O-B-E-S. Nobes,
Knowles.
Nobes, yes.
Knowles?
N-O-B-E-S.
Yes, Knowles.
Nobes, yes.
Okay. Again, that's great. All right, I'll make a motion that we appoint Carolyn and Lindsay Knowles to the Charter Day Committee.
I will second that.
Today through
June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the next one is Ms. Dufresne, or Ms. View, had requested a ceremonial bonfire. We have a letter from the interim fire chief indicating that her recent request to have a bonfire at Dufresne Park on the evening of October 9th, 2021 for Granby Charter Day is approved by the fire department. Should the event be rained out, your request for an alternate rain date of October 16th, 2021 is also approved. And should you have any further questions or requests, please do not hesitate to contact this agency. So, does the board wish to approve the ceremonial bonfire for October 9th, 2021 with a rain date of October 16th, 2021?
So I will approve, I make a motion to approve and sign the request for the ceremonial bonfire for Charter, or for Charter Day Committee, either October 9th with a rain date of October 16th.
Yeah, I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item, we have two common victualers licenses, number 2129, to expire December 31st, 2021, for Rightwise Inc., doing business as Union Mart, 362 East State Street, Granby, Mass. Fee $25. Second one is number 20, a common victualers, number 21-30, for Shira Inc., doing business as the Granby Liquor Store. Ishakumar Patel, manager, 60 West State Street, Granby, Mass. 01033, expiring December 31st, 2021.
Make a motion that we approve and sign the common vic licenses for Rightwise Inc., which does business as Union Mart, and Shira Inc., which does business as Granby Liquor Store.
I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next item is, we contract with the City of Northampton, with the Building Department, to provide our sealer of weights and measures services. Again, we now have a contract here in front of us for FY '22. This contract is in effect July 2021 and expires June 30th of 2022. And the amount of the fee for these services is $3,459.
Any discussion?
No, that's with the town of Northampton.
City of Northampton.
City of Northampton.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And they've been doing it for us, I want to say, for at least the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years. So,
All right, well, make a motion to approve and sign for fiscal year 2022, the sealer and weights and measures contract with the City of Northampton.
And I will second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
next item is, we received a letter from the Granby Professional Firefighters, Local 4172. With the recent unexpected passing of the new federal holiday, Juneteenth, members of the Local 4172 union would respectfully request the addition of this holiday as a paid holiday. This is justified by the presidential order to establish Juneteenth as a federal holiday, and the town of Granby recognizing this holiday for other town employees. The addition would be covered under an MOU between the town and the Local 4172 and would include this past Juneteenth and next year's. It is our intention to reflect this language thereafter in future contracts. Does the board wish me to draw up a memorandum of understanding with the Granby Professional Firefighters Local 4172 for all signatures to be placed thereon?
I do. It's just going to be a amendment to their current contract.
Correct.
I agree.
Okay. That's everything under new business. Under old business. At our last meeting, we discussed a issue at 107 Carver Street. I was getting ready to set up an appointment for myself, Mr. Bolio, and the complainant. And I received a copy of a fax that was sent to the police department that the resident at 107R Carver Street has now retained counsel. And they've talked about restraining orders, they've talked about issuing a civil suit against the complainant to us. Does the board wish me to continue forward with meeting with the complainant, or should we wait to see what happens? Because I don't want to get involved and find out that we're going to end up being named as a additional defendant in any potential civil suit.
I agree. I think we should, I know, we run this through Brian.
I haven't run it through Brian yet.
I would talk to Brian on it, but I think that's a wise move, not to do that unless we have an attorney with us and when we meet with the complainant. Are they filing complaints against each other?
I believe that's where it's going, yes.
That's where it's going?
And I believe there are other neighbors now who are going to get involved with issuing complaints against 107.
Is it a harassment order or is it an actual 2098 situation?
Kevin, on that one,
Harassment order issue.
Harassment order, cross complaints or no?
Not as of yet that I know, but there was one way, and then I brought that letter to Mr. Martin that we got, 107R is represented by counsel, and
Yeah.
and in the letter they were talking potential civil suit against the neighbor by 107R.
107 was sued.
He's going to issue a civil suit against the neighbor.
I don't think that should prevent us from going forward with the code violations or anything like that. But,
Well, we don't control that. That's up to
yeah.
the building inspector.
Building
I think that's
inspector.
the code enforcement person. My take is on it, that they has obtained counsel. Our part was try to settle a disagreement, to bring the two parties together. I think at this point that someone has obtained counsel, so I think they seem to want to do more with that than settle the agreement or settle the agreement through the courts. So I think at this point we just step back from it.
Okay.
I don't think it's something we can resolve. Sounds like it's going to go in court to resolve it. And I think at the point as a town, we're just trying to be a mediator, if you will, for it. But it sounds like it's gone beyond that at this point.
Okay. Yes.
Somewhat agree, but I don't think we should drop the ball on the 107R's failure to comply with stuff. But again, I know that's up to the code enforcement officer to handle that. So we need to run it by Brian before we go forward
Okay.
on it.
Okay. Sounds good. And that's all I have, gentlemen.
Anybody else? Chief?
Good.
Ray?
No, I was just here to see what's going on tonight.
Excellent.
Chris, from a couple meetings ago, where are we with the fire chief and the advertisement for that position?
I am currently going through what the former ad said and seeing if we should adjust it at all. And then the interim chief gave me a site to advertise it on, saying that he receives a lot of job availability, open job postings from this site, so he thinks that'll be a better site probably to advertise on, along with the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, FCAM.
Is he still gonna be with us
He has only made commitment to July 31st.
to July 31st?
Yes. The issue is we had talked about possibly doing some promotions to get a captain in and maybe potentially a deputy chief. He forwarded me some job descriptions that he developed for the various positions. I'd like to forward those to the board and then maybe at the next meeting discuss what we want to do.
Okay.
But I'd like to also, for our next meeting, to look at, same thing we did with the police chief, let's look at a search committee.
Okay.
We need to start moving forward with that.
Do you guys have any people in mind for that committee?
I like to think about it. I'd like to see if the current interim chief would consider at least being
The advisor?
an advisor to the committee. He's been with the department for a little short time now, but also brings a lot of experience with him. So I think he'd be a good resource for our search committee.
Okay.
I met with him as the new liaison officer, just to touch base with him and feel him out, or what do you expect from me, and I agree with Glenn on that. I think he's a pretty smart guy, and I think he can help narrow the issues down to how to go about doing the next step.
All right.
Anything else?
I have nothing else either.
At this time, Fish, everything.
Nope.
Nothing.
This time I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.